6 o'clock in the morning, a stadium in Ohio. No one has swung a racket yet. No ball has bounced. No scoreboard has lit up. And already something unusual is happening around the tickets. Behind the scenes, the ticketing system is suddenly dealing with a wave of demand that nobody expected this early. There's no viral rally yet. No dramatic upset. No championship point. So, what triggered it? Who is behind this rush? And why does it feel like something much bigger than tennis is happening underneath the surface? Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll understand why a 21-year-old who has just climbed to a career-high world, number 18, can make fans drive across multiple states just for another chance to watch her walk onto a tennis court. Let's set the scene properly because Cincinnati was never supposed to be an ordinary stop on the calendar. The Cincinnati Open is one of the most established tournaments in the sport. Played at the Lindner Family Tennis Center after a massive transformation project worth around $260 million. This is a venue built for the biggest names in tennis, a tournament that has already established itself as one of the major stops on the road toward the US Open. The organizers know what a big crowd looks like. They know how ticket demand behaves. They have years of data, years of experience, and an enormous operation designed to handle thousands upon thousands of fans. And then Alex appeared on the schedule. Suddenly, the conversation around certain sessions wasn't simply about who would win the match. It was about whether there would be enough seats for everyone who wanted to be there. Demand around Alex was becoming impossible to ignore. And as more fans tried to secure tickets, prices began moving sharply upward. Seats that had originally looked relatively affordable were suddenly becoming much more expensive, while resale listings began reaching into the hundreds of dollars. And normally, that's the point where demand starts to slow down. People look at the price, hesitate, and decide they'll watch from home instead. But something different was happening here. Fans were still buying. They weren't just paying to watch a tennis match. They were paying for the chance to be inside the building when Alex stepped onto the court. And that's when this story gets interesting because the biggest question isn't actually how much the tickets cost. It's who is willing to pay them. Look beyond the stadium for a moment. Look beyond Ohio. The people showing up for Alex aren't coming from one neighborhood or even one city. They're spread across states, across countries, and across entire generations of Filipino families who have built lives far away from where they started. For many of them, tennis wasn't necessarily the sport they grew up following. Some discovered Alex first and tennis came afterward. That distinction matters because when a player attracts people who weren't previously regular tennis fans, you're no longer talking about ordinary sports fandom. You're talking about someone becoming a cultural connection. A young athlete thousands of miles away can suddenly make a stadium feel strangely familiar. The flags come out. The families come together. Friends who haven't seen one another in months or even years start making plans, and suddenly a tennis tournament becomes the destination. Stories from Alex's fans make that even clearer. Colin Salo has documented some remarkable examples of Filipino supporters traveling specifically to see her. One group of friends living in different parts of the United States even turned their yearly reunion into a trip built around Alex's schedule. They weren't meeting in the usual vacation destinations. They were meeting where Alex was playing. And then there's another story that captures the level of dedication better than almost any statistic could. After watching Alex compete in Toronto, one fan reportedly got back in his car and drove roughly 8 hours to Cincinnati for another chance to see her play. Think about that for a second. 8 hours on the road for another tennis match. Not because it was a Grand Slam final. Not because a legendary rivalry was taking place. Because Alex was going to be there. And perhaps the most important part is that Alex herself understands what those tickets represent. She has spoken about the sacrifices Filipino fans make to support her, particularly those who are living and working far from the Philippines. She knows that for many families, money has a purpose. It goes toward rent, toward bills, toward relatives back home, toward children and parents and everyday responsibilities. So when someone chooses to spend part of that money on a ticket to watch her play, she understands that it isn't simply another sale at a box office. There's a personal sacrifice behind it. And that's why the atmosphere around her matches can feel so emotional. The screaming isn't just about a point one. The flags aren't just decoration. And the people standing in those seats aren't necessarily there because they suddenly became experts in tennis strategy. They're there because they see something familiar in Alex. They see someone representing a country, a community, and a journey that many of them understand personally. And the rest of the tennis world has started noticing. Coco Gauff has acknowledged the new demographic Alex is attracting to the sport. And that observation might be one of the most important clues in this entire story. Because tennis has always had passionate fans, what makes Alex different is the number of people discovering the sport through her. They're not necessarily coming because they already love tennis. They're coming because they love Alex. And once they walk through those gates, they're introduced to the sport in a completely different way. Cincinnati isn't the only place where this has happened. Go backward through the season and you start seeing the same pattern appear again and again. In Washington, the Filipino presence around Alex became impossible to miss. The atmosphere surrounding her matches grew louder, more emotional, and more distinctive with every round. When she reached the final, the crowd didn't feel like a neutral tennis audience. It felt like a community rallying behind one of its own. In Toronto, the demand became significant enough that organizers moved one of Alex's matches to a larger stadium court, allowing more fans to experience the moment. And when those fans arrived, the scene was unmistakable. Philippine flags filling sections of the stands, supporters shouting her name, and an atmosphere that felt completely different from the quiet, restrained environment many people associate with professional tennis. Her opponents noticed it, too. Jessica Pegula experienced the atmosphere surrounding Alex firsthand in Washington, while Belinda Bencic also saw what happens when thousands of passionate Filipino supporters turn up for one player. These aren't small details. They're evidence of something changing around Alex wherever she goes. And then Cincinnati takes that pattern and pushes it even further. Because Cincinnati isn't simply another tournament. It's a major WTA 1000 event with an enormous international audience. And the demand surrounding Alex is arriving before the match itself has even happened. That's what makes this story so fascinating. A player doesn't need to win the tournament to create an impact on the tournament. Her economic and cultural value can begin the moment her name appears on the schedule. Hotels benefit, restaurants benefit, ticket demand changes, media attention increases, fans travel, families make plans, sponsors notice, tournament organizers notice, and suddenly the question isn't just whether Alex can win another match. It's what happens to an entire event when Alex is part of it. That's a completely different kind of influence. Most young players spend years trying to build an audience large enough to move ticket sales. Alex is beginning to demonstrate that her audience can travel with her. And that may be the most important distinction of all. Her supporters aren't simply waiting for her to play in their hometown. They're willing to go where she goes. They're crossing state lines. They're organizing reunions. They're getting into cars and driving for hours. They're turning tournament schedules into travel plans. And once you understand that, the ticket prices suddenly make more sense. The demand isn't being created by one match. It's being created by an emotional connection that already exists before the match begins. So, strip away the ticket prices. Strip away the resale market. Strip away the headlines and the crowded stands. What are you left with? You're left with distance. And distance is something millions of Filipino families understand. Leaving home, building a life somewhere else, working long hours, sending money back, missing birthdays, missing holidays, missing ordinary moments with people you love, carrying your culture with you while adapting to a completely different place. And then one day you see someone from your country standing on an international stage, competing against some of the biggest names in the world. Suddenly, that distance feels a little smaller. That's what Alex represents to many of these supporters. She gives them a reason to gather, a reason to wear the flag, a reason to scream when they might normally sit quietly, and maybe most importantly, a reason to feel connected to something they thought they had left thousands of miles behind. That's why the 8-hour drive matters. That's why the reunion matters. That's why people who never cared about tennis before are suddenly learning the score, learning the rankings, and planning their weekends around a tournament schedule. They're not just becoming tennis fans. They're becoming part of a community built around Alex. And that community is growing. Every tournament gives it another chance to expand. Every city adds new supporters. Every deep run gives more people a reason to discover her story. Every appearance creates another opportunity for those flags to rise in the stands. And that's why Cincinnati matters. Not because a ticket price went up. Not because a resale listing reached an extraordinary number. And not because one match suddenly became the biggest event in Ohio. Cincinnati matters because it gives us another look at something that has been building for months. Alex Eala is becoming more than a tennis player to a growing group of people. She's becoming a reason to reconnect, a reason to travel, a reason for families and friends to come together, a reason for people who live thousands of miles from the Philippines to feel for a few hours a little closer to home. And the most remarkable part is that she has accomplished this before even reaching the top of the sport. She is 21 years old. She's already reached a career-high world number 18. She's competing against the best players in the world. And yet, the story around her isn't only about rankings anymore. It's about what happens when she enters a city. It's about the people who suddenly start planning trips. It's about the flags that appear in the crowd. It's about the fans who refuse to let distance stop them from being there. So, the next time you see a headline about Alex Eala drawing an enormous crowd, don't look at the number alone. Look at who is standing inside that crowd. Look at the families who traveled. Look at the friends who turned a reunion into a tennis trip. Look at the fan who drove 8 hours just for another match. Look at the people who discovered tennis because they discovered Alex first, because that's where the real story is. This isn't simply about filling seats in Cincinnati. It's about a community scattered across oceans, states, and generations finding a common reason to gather. One flag, one player, one court at a time. And whether Alex wins her next match or loses it, that connection doesn't disappear when the scoreboard goes dark. If anything, everything we've seen so far suggests that it's only getting started.